time I started, the time I finished in 1947, it was a 1 through 12 because the 12th grade was added, and also 9 months was added at this particular time. We had no electricity. We had wooden stoves. Part of the time there would be what we call a coal stove, and most of them were stoves that were just totally from wood. They maybe were 36 inches long. You put the wood in either top or bottom, and they had a little apron in front. And I remember when the teachers would be out of the room, some of the boys would get a poker, put the poker in, which was a rod of steel, and they'd heat it real hot. And they'd burn a little hole in the floor. So that's some of the things that we had in this. I started school somewhere about 1935 during the Depression, and we didn't have, I don't believe we had a lunchroom the first year I attended, but then we had a lunchroom, which I would call a soup kitchen, that we started about probably 36 or 37, somewhere along there. And we took produce to school to pay for the meals, and those that had the money, they used what little money they get to pay the cooks, maybe 25, 50 cents a day. Mr. Canter, what's your situation there?
Well, we had similar experiences. Even this was before your time a bit, and we had to chop wood to go in the wood stove, and sometimes some naughty boy would bring some firecrackers and throw in the stove and get some crackle and pop to give everybody a good scare. Yeah, I've had those experiences too.
What are some of the things you remember about the first grade? Now, my first grade, we had one textbook, we had one reader, and we used it all year, and we had to buy it.
Well, I don't recall it seemed we had sufficient books. My first year in school was at Northwestboro, and it was the next year that we moved to Mills Creek, and that's where I continued with school and got acquainted with chopping wood to keep our room warm. And it seemed like we had to carry water in a bucket with one dipper, and it sat on a shelf outside the door. And I don't recall ever having a glass or anything extra to drink water from, all from the same dipper.
Now we had piped the water in to outside the building, and we could go outside to where the spigot was and catch the water we wanted. Now some of the schools, it's like yours, they had to go to the neighbor's spring and carry water back and use a common dipper. Don't you want to tell us something about your you want to mention something about your parents?
Yes, day being March 6, 2003, and started the school back about 1926, when I was born on the last day of December in 1920. My name is Edwin Canter, and I live on the Brescia Mountains, about 5.5 miles from here. And my wife, Ruth Canter, died on August 13, 1998 at the Carolina Medical Center in Charlotte. And she taught school with me. And let me just say quickly about, we have Rachel, our only child, who graduated from Gardner-Webb College with a degree in religious education in 1986. And she married Jack Yarborough, and they live in Greensboro. And they have 2 children whose names are Ryan, age 10, and Rebecca, whom we call Scout, age 8. I want to get that in, in case I ever see this. And My father, Grady Canter, died at the age of 94. He died on December 25, 1992 at St. Joseph Hospital in Nashville. And my mother, May Hayes Canter, died at the age of 87 on October 2nd, 1988 at Wilkes General Hospital. I have two living brothers, and one lives in Spartanburg, and one brother, Jay, who lives in Weaversville. And so, as I mentioned a while ago, that my first year in school was at North Wilkesboro, and then we moved to Meadows Creek and Cleary area. And I graduated from high school at Meadows Creek in 1938. And there's a Baptist church in that building now. That's right behind the fire department there. And I worked at odd jobs after high school, and this was during the Great Depression, and everybody had a difficult time making a decent living. I was working at the Wilkes Hosiery Mill when I joined the Marine Corps in July 1942. And the country had already made a declaration of war against Germany and Japan. After boot training at Parris Island, South Carolina, I was in the Aleutians at Attu and Kiska, and then Saipan and Tinian in the Mariana Islands and Iwo Jima. And all of this was in the Pacific Theater. And when I was discharged from the military service in September 1945, I enrolled in King's Business College in Greensboro, and then in 1946, in the fall, I registered at Appalachian State Teachers College. And this is where Ruth and I met in class. It was in a social studies class and history class in 1948. And Ruth was from Forest City area, and but we got married at 48. And she taught school out at Fleetwood, where you used to go to school, with the principal, Mr. Stanley, and whom she liked very much. I understand was a marvelous principal out there. And but I taught with a B certificate for a few years. I finally got my A certificate in 1952, my MA degree in 1957. And so I had been teaching out at Mountain View since 1949, Ruth and I. She taught in the 5th and 8th grades, and I taught in the high school and set up the business department there. The county had gone into a consolidation program, and North Hyde was developed and was the last consolidation program. And the last graduating class at Mountain View was in 1957. And Paul Gregory was the principal, and I was the assistant principal, and taught classes as well. But the class gave Paul and me a Bulova watch, 23 jewel Bulova self-winding watch. And I'm still wearing that watch today, 46 years. And Paul is over in the nursing home at the Advanti right now, and his wife died about 2 years ago. He'd had a stroke. And while we were out there, the way we had to make money, we had to pay our own light bills at the Mountain View School. And the school had to raise money some way or another through different programs and showing films and this sort of thing to help pay the light bill, which was pretty close to around $100 extra a month. And that was a lot of money at that time. So I enjoyed working there and enjoyed working at the high school. And I left high school at North in 1962 and went to Fairplains and replaced Mr. Myers. He retired. And then in President Kennedy was killed, assassinated in November of that year. And the Wilkesboro School was developed in 1964. That was the year my daughter was born. And I was sent over there as principal there and stayed there until 1984. So I've been retired about 18 and a half years. So life has really been good to me, and I've enjoyed working with the school system. But I had a program I want to mention to you about that was we developed out at North, which was really good, was home ec for boys. And we tried to put all those boys in class somewhere, and we had room for them in home ec. And we also developed a program for 5-year-olds in the home ec department. And they came out there for us about once a week for a program, and had the boys working with them as well. I remember a little experience here is a sermon to me. I remember down the line, 5-year-old kids around 3 or 4 tables down through there, and they were all doing finger painting with the same colors and same size paper. And I just leaned over and I knew the little boy and who was doing his painting. They were all doing this in the same direction. And I asked him what he was making. And he told me what he was making. And it was just dreams of the fields and whatever it was that he had in mind. And I looked over and I saw the little girl beside him doing the same thing. It looked just like a copy. And I asked him what was she making. He looked at it and continued on circling his hand, painting. And he says, a mess. That was an experience that I've thought about so many times.
If I give you, I don't think I've given you any background on my parents.
But tell us a bit about, so you were raised over in Nash County.
Yes.
And I guess everything was quite similar to Wilkes County, or neighboring counties, being in the foothills and this sort of thing. When you started working many years later in Wilkes County, did you see the similarities or any differences that were great in the way that school systems were handled?
The schools hadn't changed much from the time I left in 1947 until I started teaching in '53 in Nash County and in Wilkes. My mother and father, my father never did learn to read and write. There was something wrong, he couldn't. But he's very interested in education. And when I finished high school, I thought I'd had it. I did not intend to go to school anywhere in the beginning of my life. And my daddy was very disappointed that I wouldn't go on. So I said to him, well, it's your time, your money and my time. So we'll go for it. So I went to Gardner Webb for 2 years. Got my AA degree, and then at that time Gardner Webb was a junior college. And then I went to Appalachian for 2 years, and I completed Appalachian, 2 years at Appalachian, and doing my student teaching at Miller's Creek with Miss Mary Nichols. Uncle Sam sent me an invitation to join the United States Army. So I joined the infantry, stayed in the States 1 year, and then went to Korea and spent 9 months in Korea until I got my 36 points in order to rotate back home. And then when I got back home, there was such a shortage of teachers, it appears, in Wilkes County, that they came to see me 3 times, see if I would teach in Wilkes County. And the first time I told them no, because they said I would have to teach 8th grade. And they came back again, and I said no. And then they came back a second time and said, well, we have a math opening. But little did I know that included in that math opening was biology. And had I known that I was going to have to teach biology, I'm not sure if I would have come to Mount Pleasant School or not, because that was